If you were a kid in America throughout the 1980s till now, you'd be hard pressed not to know about Chuck E. Cheese's, a restaurant chain focused on arcade games and entertainment. If you can tell by my accent, no, I obviously have not been to a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant, and honestly knowing the current versions of the chain, I don't think I'm missing much. That being said, despite myself being an Aussie who's never been to a Chuck E. Cheese, I've always found the history of the restaurants to be incredibly fascinating. They're a very interesting part of history within themselves, and I've gained an appreciation for their impact on arcade gaming and animatronic history. Dating back nearly 50 years ago, there's been quite a decently sized cast of quirky characters from Chuck E.'s history, and while there's some that only fans or historians would know about, I feel like there's only a few that would genuinely be obscure or aren't as beloved. So, let's spotlight some of them. Before we begin, I like to clarify a couple things. For what makes an obscure Chuck E. Cheese character, to me at least, I'm going to refer to characters we either don't have much audio of or aren't as notable. Therefore, I don't really consider many of the guest stars or iconic Pizza Time Theater era exclusive characters to be obscure. In fact, from what I can tell, they're looked at very fondly within the community. Second is that I like to shout out the biggest sources for this video, both image and info-wise. That being both showbizpizza.com and Cheese-E-Pedia for being incredible resources for this video. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Quite possibly the most notable character of them all is Dr. Quack. Dr. Quack was an obscure cabaret test character that first and only appeared in November of 1980. He debuted at the Simi Valley, California store, and from what we know of him, he would have been a character who was aimed at a much younger audience, so presumably he would have sung nursery rhymes. Unfortunately, alongside a few other Pizza Time Theater show tapes, Dr. Quack's show tape is completely lost. The only known content we have of him are news articles and a couple of pictures. Both pictures show off his design, and reveal he would have been placed on some sort of high ledge or behind a table, given his lack of legs. I do say this namely because there is the Helen Henny Cabaret bot, which seems to be the very first Pizza Time Theater bot with a full body. So although that's kind of an obvious observation I'm making, at least it's good to know that Quack was a traditional early CEC bot. He's depicted wearing overalls with a blue striped shirt and even headphones, most likely intended to be a sort of quirky disc jockey character. Other than that, not much else is known about Dr. Quack. There is a diagnosis tape called Dr. Duck's Diagnosis Stage Shelf, which shares a similar name with Dr. Quack, which was a tape intended to test various Pizza Time Theater bots' functions, hence the name. However, clear as daylight, this weirdly has no connections to Dr. Quack other than the similar name, as the tape doesn't even have the Quack bot present for testing. Where the name Dr. Ducks came from, I do not know. If anyone knows, please tell me in the comments. Wow, that's a lot more to say than I originally thought about Dr. Quack of all characters. Now, let's go to Cruiser Road, shall we?
Sean! Hooray for Hollywood!
While not as infamous as Dr. Quack, the short-lived replacement for the characters of the Warblettes, the Mopsy Sisters, were intended to replace those very characters, similar to how Mr. Munch replaced Krusty the Cat. However, unlike Krusty, who was forever replaced by Munch, the Mopsy Sisters weren't so fortunate in the spotlight. The Warblettes were brought back in 1979, and all the future show tapes, which included the newly edited Munch versions, reflected their return. Thus, the Mopsy Sisters would fall into obscurity. For a very, very long time, not much was known about them. Were they a simple reskin of the Warblettes? Did they have their own voices? Certainly some lines were changed to reflect the characters. We wouldn't know about them until pictures and eventually footage of them would resurface. The show called Real People would do a spot on the Cruiser Road location in 1979. This notably had audio of the currently mostly lost Helen Henny guest star show tape. Unfortunately in the show, the only audio present for the Mopsy Sisters wasn't the best look at them, so it was still up in the air if they were a simple reskin or had different voices. However, as of very recently, there's been strides in Chuck E. Cheese lost media as of late. Earlier this month, as I was producing this video, new formerly lost Pizza Time Theater audio resurfaced online, both courtesy of Pizza Time Theater founder Gene Landrum and fellow YouTuber/collector Pasq. previously lost audio from the Cruiser main show tape was found. This included the show called Lone Prairie, and even the complete Hooray for Hollywood Helen Henny guest star segment. Lone Prairie is a bit speculative at first, until you realise the segment was never reused as a classic segment in any of the future show tapes, which makes sense given that, well, mainly because we haven't actually heard this segment until recently. What further evidence as being a very early segment from Cruiser is that this segment would be remade in Harmony Howlett's second show tape in 1981 as Prairie Pizza Man. Harmony 2 is also known for remaking previous Pizza Time Theatre segments, like Smile Jasper Smile and Jasper's Texas Show, subtly confirming to us that this was from the Cruiser main show at least. These two nearly found segments answered two of our questions regarding the Mopsy Sisters, which reveals, yes, they were nothing more than reskins of the Warblettes, and even had the same, if not similar voices. The only question that remains is that their names were dropped in any segment. They must have had to, as Winchester had the Pizza Time Theatre finale segment, which was redubbed with Munch, but the currently surviving version of that still has the Warblettes. Meaning it's most likely there was a version of the segment redubbed to mention the Mopsy Sisters exclusively at Cruiser, and the Munch version we have online is a merger of the two previous variants. Meaning there's a possibility that this segment had 3 major revisions. Pretty weird, isn't it? Overall, while there's not much to their character / personality, the history and mystery behind the Mopsy Sisters more than makes up for it. So, let's round off this video, shall we? Pizza Time Theatre was not afraid to experiment throughout its early years. One of these experiments that sadly never paid off was an ice cream emporium in the cabaret area. This evolved into the short-lived Four Little Shavers cabaret act, their cyberamics being repurposed from the Beagles / Beach Bowsers. While their show tape is sadly lost, we do know a good amount of info on them, despite how short-lived they were. First of all, we know each of the individual band members' names, that being Nolan, Old Nolan, Curly, and McNolan, with the ones with Nolan in the name being an obvious nod to the creator of Pizza Time Theatre and Atari co-founder, Nolan Bushnell. According to the Theatrical Standards Manual, their show tape would have consisted of songs from the Buffalo Bills and other barbershop groups. Other than that, that would have been the end of the story of the Four Little Shavers, as sadly, the ice cream emporium idea fell through, and the Shavers were retired in the mid-80s. Long thought to be lost to time, miraculously, one set still survived, and was fully restored, and now can be seen performing at the Aldo Volo Museum, where other Pizza Time Theatre cabaret bots can also be found today. Fortunately meaning these lost characters are no longer lost to the sands of time. And that, my friends, is my look at 3 odd, obscure, yet incredible Chuck E. Cheese characters. This video was definitely a lot of fun to make, and further validates how someone who's never been to a CEC before due to being in a different region can still get loads of enjoyment and appreciation of its history and impact. Thank you all for watching. Even though this channel is my variety channel and is not intended to be a Chuck E. Cheese channel by any means, I do suggest you subscribe anyways if you like what you see. You'll enjoy my other videos I have on this channel. And that being said, I do have more ideas in mind for Chuck E. Cheese content, but when the time comes, we'll have to wait and see. Make sure you like the video and subscribe so you don't miss them. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye!